HBCU Sports ranked the top MEAC defenses entering 2025. Let's react to the list while also identifying what makes each defense special or concerning. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics. Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current site expert at Who Dat Dish and contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make it Locked On HBCU, your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. We'll wrap up today's episode with a look at South Carolina State doing what they needed to do a very long time ago. In segment 2, we'll take a look at Diamond Johnson and Morgan Price, who both left their current destinations. For Johnson, obviously, it's the WNBA. And unfortunately, for Morgan Price, it is Fisk University. But in segment 1, let's break down and rank the HBCU, or excuse me, the MEAC defenses entering 2025. I thought that HBCU Sports did a pretty good job at doing this, and I wanted to give you the list first and then also talk about what makes each team concerning or inspiring or special, however you want to phrase it. I think inspiring is probably the best way to phrase it because each school has different things and different players they have to replace, different transfers they're bringing in. But all in all, is this a concerning or is this an inspiring defense? And I think that it actually splits down the middle. It's 3-3 in a way, and there's different things that makes each club sit on that side. But as far as the rankings go, you have going from 6-1, Delaware State, Delaware State, Norfolk State, Howard, Morgan State. That's in Norfolk. Let me do it real quick. Delaware State, Norfolk State, Howard, Morgan State, South Carolina State, and then North Carolina Central. All of the states kind of lumped together, and I was like, did I say them the right way? But that is it. DSU, NSU, Howard, MSU. I tried to get it better, and it wasn't really. SCSU, and then NCCU. I thought that going into acronyms would make it a little bit less confusing, but it's not really. Anyway, I'm gonna react to them from the bottom to the top now. When you look at Delaware State, definitely concerning. And I understand it is a new regime. I understand that you're bringing in Coach Blackman. It's not what you saw last year. It's not who's going to be running the defense. A lot of the players aren't going to be there. But at the same time, it's just very difficult to give them a lot of confidence. Remember, if for their rankings, they're ranking them 61. For me, I'm putting them in categories of inspiring versus concerning. And this is definitely concerning because they were at the bottom of the barrel last year. They're bringing in a lot of new talent. They're bringing in coaches who haven't been in these certain situations. And I know we're only talking about defense right now, but Nemo Washington is probably the most experienced in his role. And that's as the offensive coordinator. Everybody else has experience or name recognition. Like they have things working in their favor, but specifically being a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator or a head coach, like those things, they don't really apply to anybody other than Nemo Washington, who was an offensive coordinator at, I think, a Division II school or another FCS school. I can't remember right now. But when it comes to defense, guys, I still think they're going to have to figure it out in some way. And I don't know if figuring it out stops in the summer or they're going to be having to try to figure it out week 1, 2, 3. Are they going to be still trying to figure it out as we get into MEAC play? These are all questions that we need to know, and I don't think we'll have the answer to until probably, honestly, we probably won't have the answer to that until halfway through the season. We won't. because we don't judge teams based off of what they look like in the beginning of the season. We judge them largely by what they look like when MEAC play comes around. I think about Delaware State just last season. Just last season, Delaware State was playing close against teams that we thought they'd get blown out against. And then they get some MEAC play and they start getting blown out. So we don't even mention what they looked like in the beginning of the season. We only talk about, okay, I mean, yeah, I actually won't even mention. I was gonna say, yeah, they did this. That's not even what's said about them. It's just purely Delaware State was terrible last year. But at the beginning of the season, that wasn't the narrative. They were losing, but they were losing in closer fashion than we thought they should. But this is what we mean when we say moral victories don't really exist in sports. That's not really a thing. So anyway, there are a few recruits that make me get excited, but all in all, guys, I'm not a huge recruiting guy. That's not something that excites me, gets me going. I'm a wait and see player. Type of person. So when it comes to players, I want to wait and see until they get on the field before I start getting hyped. Yes, there are some that make me kind of go against that a little bit, and I think that Chris Trumbull is a really talented player. But at the same time, I don't think that I don't think I can lose how I typically operate because of Trumbull. Talented player, but it's not making me say, oh man, yeah, he's about to go and dominate straight off the high school ranks. I see we're going to take this to 2 segments. We're going to adjust, guys. We are going to adjust because I talk too doggone much, and I'm going to take segment 1 to talk about the concerning teams, and then we're going to go to segment 2 for the inspiring teams, and then we'll just talk about Johnson and Morgan Price in segment 3, and we'll save South Carolina State until tomorrow because I'm realizing like I'm talking a lot. Anyway, so when you look at Norfolk State, they didn't have a great defense last year, and they are losing stars. So when you look at the one thing that Norfolk State had a year ago is they had turnovers and they had stars. You can say what you want to say about them as a team, but they had turnovers and they had stars. And at the end of the day, that's typically a recipe for some level of success. I'm not saying you're going to be a good offense or a good defense, by doing that. But if you have star players, you're going to have some moments. And if you have, honestly, the star players kind of lead to turnovers. But you're looking at A.J. Richardson, Teron Mallory, Devon Allen. You had Jaden Smith. You still have Jaden Smith. So I don't want to make it seem like that's gone. But in general, you look at it, man, Jaden Smith, he had 3 interceptions, but he only had 1 pass breakup other than that. Same with Mallory, 3 interceptions, but only 1 pass breakup other than that. And that's not something that's going to be suitable. You would hope that you get better ball production out of Smith this year, and with greater ball production, with him just getting his hands on more passes, inevitably, you would hope it leads to 3 or more interceptions. You would hope that his interception numbers either stay constant or go up, because 3 is a good number. You're happy with 3 interceptions any day of the week from your cornerback. But at the same time, you want to get more than just 1 pass deflection. It's just not enough. But as a defense, you're looking at you look at Norfolk State being 5th in total yardage or in scoring, 5th in total yardage as well. When it comes to rushing, you're kind of middle of the pack at 4th. Same with passing attack. You coming in at 4th or 5th there. So you're disappointed with where you ranked, and they get another team coming in too. They have another defense coming in too. A.J. Richardson, Teron Mallory, and Devon Allen are all gone, either through the portal or through graduation. It's just you're losing your stars, especially A.J. Richardson. I thought Richardson was a dog. Oh, my God, I thought Richardson was a dog. But at this point, you got to try to replace him. Michael Vick is going to attract some people, just like Deshaun Jackson is going to attract some people. But until they get onto the field, the 2 worst defenses in the MEAC have to remain the 2 worst defenses in the MEAC. That's just me personally, and it looks like HBCU Sports agreed with me. Now you have Howard, and I think Howard is the last on the list of concerning defenses, because when I look at Howard, what concerns me the most is you took a dip last year, and now you lost stars. We just got done talking about Norfolk State having their stars and losing them and the impact that can have. But it's really not fair. I'll be honest with you. It's really not fair to sit here and compare year to year, but it's contextualizing information that we have, and it's contextualizing why we believe certain things. In 2023, Howard was one of the better defenses in the conference. In 2024, they took a step back. In 2025, they're losing a lot of their stars. No Gallup, no Holland, no Rubio, no Robert Jones. You're losing a lot of star players when you're looking at Howard. So why would I expect them to bounce back and have confidence that they'll bounce back if I already saw them take a step back? Like the trajectory of Howard, the trajectory of Howard probably isn't fair to include in this conversation, but at the same time, you got to look at it. Yes, you're having new players, of course, but I think I'd be more confident that Howard would have a bounce back if they still have players who are on that team in 2023. But instead, I saw star players fall back in 24, and then I also saw you lose those players going into 2025. Not a great recipe, if you ask me. So those are my three concerning defenses, and they just so happen to be the three defenses in the HBCU sports rankings that were the bottom three. I think that this was a pretty good split. Once you get past these next three, I think you have a lot of inspiring content, even if it just boils down to one player. Even if it just boils down to one player or consistency, you have that. And I'm going to break it down for you as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Listen, maybe you want to attend a playoff game because you're close. It ain't even your team. You're in Minnesota, but you like the freaking 76ers. Too bad. You still get to go to a playoff game. You get to see Anthony Edwards versus, well, I guess Steph's not there. You get but you get Anthony Edwards versus Jimmy Butler. That would be really fun. You get Rudy Gobert versus Draymond Green. And I know that didn't sound fun, but I think from an attitude, purely viewer watcher experience, that's pretty fun too. All that you have to do is go to Gametime, or you can download the Gametime app. Either way, if it's your first time, use the code LOCKEDONCollege and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Doesn't matter if you're on the app or the desktop. Just go to Gametime, download the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On NBA to break down all of the biggest stories around the NBA, which are centered around the playoffs at the current moment. As you can see, we pulled a little bit of an audible. If you're checking this out and you're on the live stream, but you're just now coming in, the right side of the screen, we're bumping down the South Carolina State conversation till tomorrow. But as we stand here, I want to break down the inspiring and the concerning MEAC defenses. We just talked about the teams that are concerning, but what about the ones that give you a little bit of confidence? What about the ones that give you a little bit of inspiration that they'll be good? It doesn't mean that they will. It's still preseason, of course, but sometimes it just takes one player. Sometimes it just takes one player for you to feel like, oh yeah, this is a squad. We have that, right? So, you're looking at South Carolina State, you're looking at Morgan State, South Carolina State, and then lastly, North Carolina Central. Those are the three defenses that you'll see mentioned today. And I'm going to start off with Morgan State, because when it comes to inspiring and when it comes to just looking at, oh yeah, I like this defense, Morgan State just has history on their side. They have history and a star player. It's that simple. Morgan State has been a good defensive club since Damon Wilson stepped in, and I have no reason to believe that it will stop. Yes, I understand that things that happen consistently do have an expiration date at some point, typically, but why would I assume Morgan State to struggle defensively when I've never seen it happen? Now, they have had Elijah Williams. I'll give you that. Having the force on that front line definitely makes a difference, but I love Eric Hunter. I really do. I'm still interested to see if they decide to move his position. That's something I think should be discussed by him. I think it should be discussed by the team. I think that'll be something that'll be interesting to watch. I'm not so certain that it'll backfire. I'm not so certain it'll work. I'm up in the air on what the results will be. But gosh, I think it'd be good content. It'd be good TV, man. I've said this before, but Eric Hunter has the body of a defensive back. I think he plays very well at linebacker, but if we're talking about moving to the next level, he's more likely to be a coverage guy at his size. I know that we have a slimmer linebacker build these days, but I also saw how slim linebackers get gashed by the run game. And I think the run game is making a comeback. So being 210 pounds and trying to play linebacker these days, it's going to be a tougher sell. I also think that he may have the skill set to be able to transition to defensive back in the collegiate ranks and still have success. So when you're looking at these aspects of him, I think it's a conversation worth having. I don't know him personally as far as what he looks like in practice and, things like that. So I don't want to say that they should do it, but I think he's shown that it's worth a conversation. And those who know more about him would be able to tell you if that were to translate. But anyway, Morgan State is inspiring because they've always been inspiring. And I know that's lazy to a degree to say you've always been good, so you'll continue to be good. So I'll throw the extra caveat of having Eric Hunter on the front line, having Eric Hunter in the middle of the defense. I don't know why linebacker isn't a premier position. I mean, I know why, but I'm saying I don't know the reason why. I don't know why that exists, right? It's all about stopping the passing attack. But having a second level player feels like the ultimate position in today's NFL where you would want to have an elite player. I understand you want to try to stop people from being able to get the ball off. You want to stop receivers from being able to catch it. Premier defensive players are typically based around what the premier offensive players are in just whatever that competition is. Linebackers, they can play sideline to sideline. They impact the run game. They impact the passing game. They do so much. So I think Eric Hunter can be an impact player from that position. That is my personal opinion, and that's the reason I look at them so highly in addition to their history of performing highly. Now you have South Carolina State. And now this is interesting. The South Carolina State conversation is actually really, really interesting. They're really interesting because it all comes down to Ashad Hall. And I understand that it doesn't take one player, but Ashad Hall is a defensive end, and there is no conversation of can you impact the game. The MEAC does like to run the football. Admittedly, the MEAC likes to run the football, but at the same time, they have to throw. And South Carolina State just aired out the conference. I think other people will probably try to follow suit. I think that Michael Vick is going to try to throw the football. I think that Deshaun Jackson is going to try to throw the football. I hope that Howard is trying to run the football. I really do. But at the same time, I think that Hall has been a solid run defender in his time at South Carolina State. He's definitely been an explosive pass rusher. He's a guy who plays a premier position. So you know that having that talent at that position can absolutely change your defense. So that right there is inspiring enough. I'm not here to rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not my bag, right? My bag is telling you how I feel about each team's defense, which is why I want to articulate it in this way. Ashad Hall at defensive end is enough to inspire confidence in me because I think he can be a game wrecker, both in the passing and the running game. I think that he can make impactful plays behind the line of scrimmage, whether that's rushing the quarterback, making an errant throw, or maybe bringing down the quarterback, or just disrupting rhythm, flushing them out the pocket. Now, all of a sudden, your teammate has a chance. Ashad Hall is an impact player. So I understand that they lost a lot of players, and they got Malik Harp out of Fort Valley State. So we'll see how he ends up turning out. But I do think that he has some talent, and I want to watch him. He's on my watch list of most transfers, or excuse me, he's on my watch list of transfers. And then lastly, the last person that you get is North Carolina Central. And North Carolina Central has been a really quality defense, guys. Like, I think that they kind of fly under the radar, but let me read to you what they were able to do last year. They were second in sacks. Now, South Carolina State was first, but they lost Jaden Broughton. So I want to see who they pair Hall with. But Central was second in sacks. They had the best pass defense in the conference. They had the best defensive efficiency. Matter of fact, their pass defense was so good, it was ranked top 10 nationally. When you're looking at players like that, and of course you have Max Urin, you have players who are coming back, and it just feels like they have mastered the art of reloading. When you look at what North Carolina Central has done over the last few years, they haven't made it to the Celebration Bowl, but just one season. But I feel like they've always reloaded. That hasn't been something that was difficult for North Carolina Central. But We'll see what happens in 2025. I just think that these teams inspire confidence. When I look at North Carolina Central, it is a guy like Max Urin, who I think is very talented. It is the history that comes with it. It is just feeling like they have some young players who can step into a bigger role and just continue to grow. It felt like they shed their skin. And this is not based on me knowing everybody's eligibility. But in 2024, it felt like North Carolina Central was shedding the skin that came from the Davius Richard era. And it felt like you had younger players who were stepping in the roles. If they had just one more year of eligibility, I'd like to see how they grow. It doesn't matter if it's a guy like Walker Harris, if it's a guy like Max Urin, if it's a guy like Malcolm Reed or Cole Jones, right? Like Cole Jones doesn't get to step into anything. But like these are just players who I felt like stepped into bigger roles. I'd like to see what they're able to do with another season. Some of them have it, some of them don't. I don't know the specifics at the moment. Howard, a shot hall, impact player, star player at the edge rusher position, can change the game. And then lastly, you have Morgan State, who has a history of great defenses, and they have an all-star defensive player of the year quality linebacker in Eric Hunter, who can be all over the field, and that is highly impactful. We really got to put some respect on the linebacker's name. We do. The resurgence of the running back needs to be a resurgence of the linebacker. Honest and truly. Neither here nor there, guys. Those are the three reasons to be inspired about those defenses. Lastly, we'll wrap up with a look at Morgan Price's decision to leave Fisk University, why this is the ultimate gut punch, and also Diamond Johnson is out of the Minnesota Lynx before even taking a step on the court. Today's episode is brought to you by the Amazon TV Fire Stick. Now, listen, I'm going to put y'all on TV. I'm going to put y'all on game real quick. I like to save money. At the end of the day, that's what I like to do. I don't like to go out and blow a bag. Some people do, not me. So if I were you, I'd get myself a Fire TV Stick 4K, plug it into my Fire TV, and I have a console. Don't even have to go buy it. Keep that between you and I, though. Keep that between you and I. You don't even have to go buy the console. Buy yourself a pair controller, and you can play games like EA College Football 25. You can play the new Black Ops. You can play whatever it is that you desire. All you have to do is get an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. It's simple. Save yourself some money. Save yourself some space. If you already have a console, that's fine. Still get it so that when you go on the road, it's easy to play. I wish that I had one of these for my system. This is great for you, and I suggest that you go ahead and grab it. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, for you making this all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to talk about 2 departures that really hurt, but that Morgan Price loss is a real gut punch. This one stings because you have to understand Morgan Price has been the best ambassador for HBCU sports in their given athletic event than I think anybody else. I'm going to be honest. And I know that gymnastics is not the biggest sport. I understand that gymnastics is not the headline grabber that football or basketball is. But I don't know if we've had a better ambassador for their sport than Fisk University's Morgan Price. I don't know if a sport has needed an ambassador like Fisk University's Morgan Price. Honestly, the departure, and I know some people are going to feel like this is ridiculous because we're comparing sports of completely different sizes, but I believe that Morgan Price's departure hits gymnastics in a very similar fashion that Deion Sanders' departure hit Jackson State's football team. I do. When I look at everything, because listen, when I tell you that Morgan Price is the best ambassador that we've seen in HBCU sports recently, who's the next person that you would think of? When I say that this is a gut punch of a transfer, I would say that it's on that same level. And I understand that football and gymnastics, they aren't looked at as equals. They aren't. I get it. But I see what Morgan Price has done for her sport. whether that's going on Good Morning America, whether that's being a national champion, whether that's just bringing a load of attention from the moment she stepped foot on Fisk. People didn't think that she would go to that university because she was such a highly recruited athlete coming out of high school. So I think there are a lot of similarities. I'm going to just go out and say it. I think that the trajectory, no, excuse me. I think that the introduction is very similar to Deion Sanders. And I think that the impact of the loss is very similar to Deion Sanders. I know it's not sexy to say, but you got to understand, Morgan Price was HBCU athletics. She hasn't left yet. So HBCU athletics is Morgan Price. When she came over from high school, she was a highly recruited athlete. She was a highly recruited athlete, and she lived up to every single piece of her hype. I don't think that you could walk away from the Morgan Price 3-year run at Fisk University and be like, I mean, whatever. I don't think you could do that. Because from the moment she came in, there were eyes on her because she wasn't supposed to go to Fisk. As a high recruit, she was not supposed to go to an upstart HBCU gymnastics program. And she did it and she won. Got perfect 10. Got a national championship, came back, did it again, winning the all-around, improved on her performance from 2024. In 2023, she had a very successful freshman season. And now she's decided, I'm going to go somewhere a little bit bigger. I'm going to go somewhere that has a couple more opportunities for me. This is exactly what she said. She says, I feel called to step into a new chapter, one that challenges me in different ways and allows me to grow even further as both a gymnast and as a woman. I'm eager to compete on a bigger stage and really push myself to new limits. And I feel like she's earned whatever it is that she needs because she's lived up to the billing every step of the way, every single step of the way. Morgan Price has done that. This hurts. This hurts because I think that Morgan Price, you lost Johnson last year, who was at Talladega. They closed down their program, so you lose Johnson through that. And now you lose Price. And I think you're losing the two biggest faces, the two biggest athletes who could lead to ascension in HBCU gymnastics. Now, one wasn't, I guess Johnson could have went to Fisk, but all in all, Talladega shut it down. Now she's at Temple and she's flourishing. So shout out to her. You look at Price chose to leave. We can't hold that against her or anything, but she chose to leave, and it just stings, man. You lost your two brightest stars in a sport that was trying to gain traction. That's the tough part. When you're looking at HBCU gymnastics, you had Johnson at Talladega, you had Price at Fisk, and they were balling. They were both in the national conversation in 2024 when they were at their HBCUs. Price remained there as she stayed at Fisk. So you're looking at people who are going to bring in, oh, yeah, we could do that, and we could do that there. And you lost both of them. That stings, man. Today's all about audibles. I don't think we're going to talk about Diamond Johnson. We're already bumping up against that 30-minute mark that I like to try to stay under as much as possible. You'll notice that every day. But we'll talk about Diamond Johnson tomorrow. I think that conversation probably deserves a little bit more space to breathe anyway. So we'll talk about that on tomorrow, in addition to South Carolina State's new direction that they most definitely needed. So we'll talk about that on tomorrow's episode. But yeah, this is just a gut punch. This is going to be hard to counteract. You're not going to go get another Morgan Price. You're not. And as I'm talking about this, I see so many parallels between Morgan Price and Deion Sanders, right? Like, people can have their problems with the leaving of Jackson State, but the impact that his departure had on that football team is very similar to the impact that I think Morgan Price has. Honestly, I think Morgan Price may even have a greater impact on her sport. It's almost, look at it almost like a smaller state versus a bigger state, and we bring in the conversation of per capita. This is a per capita conversation to me. Morgan Price impacts the way that people look at HBCU gymnastics. She was the one. She is the face. HBCU gymnastics lost their face of the sport this week when Morgan Price decided, I'm going to transfer away from Fisk. I don't know how you recover from this. I really don't. I don't. And I don't know if you can. You just got to keep putting out quality talent. They just won't be of the same name recognition. But anyway, I already told you what we're going to talk about tomorrow. You know what to look forward to. So in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.